If, like me, you're a fan of World Cup downhill racing, then you will be aware of Dakotah Norton. The super fast man from Tennessee in the USA is just one step away from winning a World Cup downhill. But his bike setup this year has been talk of the town, all because of the handlebars he runs. Right, so Dakotah Norton runs 75mm rise handlebars, which is much bigger than most people. I would say the average is probably 20 or 30mm. So actually in a Vital MTB podcast, he says that because he has short arms and he has a longer reach on his bike, he likes to bring his bars upright, basically to sort of optimise that balance on the bike. He says he can't ride in that same style as Loic Brune and Finn Isles, where they are much more kind of down, lower, more aggressive on the bike. He says he gets more weight onto the front wheel by standing up. If you look at his riding style, it's way more stood up, and he also rides a lot of motocross as well, so it's a much more similar setup to his motocross bike. We've seen other riders bring their bars slowly up as well. Finn Isles was running a super slam bar not so long ago, and the rise definitely increased there. And people like Greg Minnaar, I've seen lots of spaces underneath his stem in the past. So there's no arguing with Dakotah Norton's speed. He is going to win a World Cup at some point. He's been so close, qualifying and semis fastest. So when he wins a World Cup, will it be one of those trends that just takes off? So today I'm at Dyfi Bike Park. I'm on a downhill bike, which is already a recipe for a good day out. And I'm going to try them out and see if it can suit me or even you. I have two sets of bars by a brand called Fuq R. That is exactly how it's spelt. I probably wouldn't pronounce it like that if I had my own choice. But actually, when you get these things, they don't say that on them at all. They say Guage, which sounds better. I don't know. So I bought these off Amazon. Where else do you buy your handlebars? For around £30 each. They're available in 25, 55, 75 and 90. So I've got 75, and these are the 90mm rise bars today. Absolutely massive. And I'll tell you what the Amazon description says. 780mm wide, easy to install and adjust. Although I would say some of these marks do not really look straight, I would say. And actually, the cut marks on the end don't line up with the end of the bar anyway. Material, mountain bike handlebar made of aluminium alloy, high strength, not easy to deformation. Very good. Resistance to wear and tear, not easy to accumulate dust, easy to clean. I mean, that sounds like an extra bonus. £30, some easy to clean handlebars sound really good. I don't know if you can see on camera, but this is the 90mm handlebar. You can see the bottom of the stem clamp section. It looks curved to me. It doesn't look like you've got two, flat parallel surfaces there. Let's try and find a flat surface, the end of the other bar. Can you see like there isn't a flat bit? So, I don't know, are all bars like that? The Amazon description also says, ergonomic design, high riser bars give you much more control. Over what, I'm not sure. Makes riding position more comfortable, probably, yeah, but best choice for riders. For mountain bike, DH, cross country, AM, free ride. I mean, this sounds like the only handlebar you could ever need for all your mountain biking needs, so I'm excited to try them out. So it's already been a bit of faff getting ready for the shoot, to be honest. I had to do a dry run, fitting everything. And actually, I've had this lovely new Carne sender a couple of weeks, and I trimmed my brake hoses down to make it look really nice. And then, of course, they're way too short for even the 75mm bars, so I've had to change out the hoses on this bike already. That is a 75mm bar. And I can see the reasoning behind why Dakotah is running the higher bars, basically. But there's so many different things that can affect where your weight is on the bike. I've always found that I'm quite sensitive to bar height, and if it's too high for me on any bike, definitely on a downhill bike, if it's too high, I don't get enough weight on the front tyre, and then I suffer from washouts. So I've always been fairly low on the handlebar, so I feel like this probably isn't going to work for me, but who knows? I also don't know any other changes Dakotah might have done to his bike to make it work for him with the high riser bar, or if the high riser bar is kind of like the last piece of the puzzle to make it work for him. So I'm going to keep my bike almost exactly the same. I've put the chainstay length out to then bias the weight a bit more to the front wheel anyway, because that's what I like. So I'm going to swap the bars over and basically see how it feels. But before I change anything, I'm going to do some very rough science here to try and get a number of how much weight is already on the front of my bike. So, back in my downhill racing days, I used to actually have a notepad with kind of the geometry of the bike that I rode and exactly how I liked it. from bar height off the ground, stack, to head angles. But also, back in those days, I did used to struggle with front wheel grip, like I've said already. I had some advice at the time off Greg Minar's mechanic, Marshy, and they talked about actually using bathroom scales and chocking up the back wheel, putting the bathroom scales under the front wheel, and then trying to get that weight balanced exactly onto the front tyre in a static position, trying to get 60% to 40% on that front wheel. So today I'm obviously out at the bike park. It's definitely not a flat ground. I'm actually going to try and find a number for this. It's not going to be perfect, but I've got my bike stand here. I've kind of marked where it is, and I'm going to slide a set of bathroom scales underneath my front wheel. It's probably not chocked up exactly at the same height, but if I keep things the same, at least I'll find myself a number. Then I'm going to lower myself onto the bike and see what that number says, and then compare that after I've changed the bars. So as much of a bodge this actually is, of course, that's measuring 34 kilograms on that front wheel. So I weigh 80 kilograms. So 40% of my weight is actually 32. So it's about right. We're a couple of kilograms off, which would leave me with 46 kilograms on the rear tyre. So that's about where I'm looking for my weight to be. I know it's definitely nowhere near perfect, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see if that changes with a higher bar. What are we thinking? It feels absolutely insane already. Like a beach cruiser. Literally, I mean, I know they're not swept back, but it literally feels like a beach cruiser. Like, I'm quite excited about putting these on one of my bikes for cruising around town, but actually as far as racing downhill or riding downhill, it feels so crazy. It does feel like the reach has just got smaller because it's just bringing, you obviously way more upright, but let's try and put it back into my sort of bodged jig here to see if there are any numbers to go against that feel. Thoughts? Well, it's not showing any different on the scale, which I don't know. I think that's kind of what Dakotah Norton says. He's got a really long bike, so his reach is big. He's brought the bars up so that he's not stretched out. So it does feel a bit like that. You know, my weight is still on the bars, but I'm stood more upright, which is what he talks about quite a lot, about riding motocross and things like that. So maybe it's not as daft as it feels. Let's try the 90s again. Whilst we're here, let's just stick them on, see what it looks like. I can't believe the way that bar fits. I can see 2 mil of clear air at the extreme ends of the stem, basically, where it's not touching. I know when I roll it over, it does touch, but under here, there's going to be a pressure point for sure on the edge of that clamp. And then if you look underneath, you can see clear air where the bar isn't touching the stem at all. Yeah, 90 millimeters. It's comfy. Quite like it. It literally feels like a Harley. I'm sat back here. I need some tassels on the end of my bars, cruising along. I can imagine it for chilling down bike parks all day is quite good. But as far as actually trying to ride this thing fast, don't want to do it. I mainly don't want to do it because the way this bar is fitting in this stem, like, I don't feel like I want to ride down this bike park with these bars on. So I will switch back to the Dakotah Norton Specials 75mm, and then we'll go up the hill. If anything, it says there's more weight on the front tyre now, which surprised me a little, but I know it's not a perfect way of doing it. But yeah, I'm not going to run them, so we won't worry about that. I'm going to go to the 75s. That is mad, isn't it, that bike? He's got 2 of them, identical. One of the great things about modern downhill bikes is just how adjustable the geometry is in these things. At the moment, I've got the stock reach, so the headset cups sit there, and that's 460mm. So this is a medium bike, I'm 5'10". That feels 460s on the money for me. And I've flipped the chainstay chips as well there to make that as long as possible. So that's 455mm chainstays in this bike. That, for me, again, like I said already, it then sort of biases the weight a bit more forward. But actually, when I'm going to change the bars now from my stock 20mm rise to the 75s, I'm actually going to stick the longer reach up front. So that actually takes it 8mm out to 4, 6, 8mm, because I think we need this to work together. And a bit like Dakotah Norton, like he says, the longer reach means he wants a higher bar. So I'm going to try that, but also I'm going to take out a couple of these spaces underneath that top crown. So I'll bring it down a little bit and then up with the bar. Never has bar roll been more important. As soon as you move the bars like a degree, it just completely changes. You know, it could probably change where your bars are by 30mm. So I'll just have to take some Allen keys with me, I think, because that's not going to be right straight away. I'm riding a Canyon Sender CFR full carbon downhill bike. Lovely matte black, but it's covered in dust, which I like to see. So this bike came full 29. I've actually swapped it out to mixed wheels, so 27.5 in the rear, and I've moved the bolt there to get that set up nice. 63 head angle, 200mm travel. It's got a stack of 63mm at the front. It's got 435mm chainstays as standard. I've extended them by 10mm. I've extended the reach by 8mm, like I said already. 45mm stem, normally has 20mm rise bars, but now I'm up to 75mm rise, 780 width. It feels like I'm riding, like Dakotah Norton. Not as fast maybe, but like, you know, his style, it kind of feels like that. It's like in the corners particularly, I've heard him talk about it, where he's just like almost MotoGP, and it feels nice in the turns where I thought I wouldn't be able to balance my weight. It feels safer because you're tipped back going through the corner like that. So I'm pleasantly surprised. I've also thought about this, and if your bars are closer, potentially I'm subconsciously moving forward to counter a little bit, and actually if you do that, you've then got more bend in your arm, so sort of more negative and more positive space, or well actually less negative but more positive space to throw the bars away from you. So does that put you in a more neutral position on the bars with your arms particularly? Maybe. It feels a bit like that. It feels like I can pressure the front tyre nicely in the turns where I was worried that I wasn't. So, yeah, I mean, I'm yet to be sold on the aesthetics, but it feels weird sat on it. But when you go in, it feels pretty good. But I think we should dip into the woods. It slows down a bit as well, actually, and we'll see how those corners in the woods are. Right, experiment over. 75mm bars. What's the verdict? Surprised how good it is. Obviously, downhill races test a lot of things, so Dakotah won't have just tested this alone. I'm sure, you know, that's prototype Mondraker it's on, so they'll have probably tried different size frames, you know, flip chips, adjusted reach even. I don't know that, to be honest, but it's all in conjunction with each other. So I haven't tweaked much on this bike, like I said. I've just changed the reach and I've put the bars up, and it felt great. I'm surprised actually how good it felt on turns. It feels a bit weird, like it makes you want to tuck, like Dakotah Norton. I obviously didn't have the hair flowing out the back of my helmet, but I did feel like him. But when you're tucked, even like sometimes in turns, obviously it feels like my chin is down here. When I try and go really fast and down a bike, I have lots of times in the past whacked the chin of my full face on the stem, trying to soak things up. So it feels like when I do that, obviously my hands are by my ears, and it feels fine. It actually feels really good for rest time. So I'm impressed how much I can weight the front, which is what I always try and do. You know, like I said before, I struggled for years with bar height and fork sort of progression. I always felt like when I was really pushing limits, I would wash out the front wheel, front tyre, because it wasn't the correct weight on there at all times. And now I feel like, you know, the forks are great nowadays, the geometry suits me, and now I can pressure the front tyre that even a bit easier now with a higher bar. But I'm definitely not sold on the look. You know, it was nice to be able to try it for 30 quid, but I don't trust these bars, having seen the 90mm that I wouldn't want to run. So I think I'm gonna get on the phone and try and find some 50mm bars from someone a bit more reputable, like Bergtech, someone like that. And I think that might be the magic number for me, 50. I can always play around with spacers anyway, so yeah. I don't need to be quite as wild as Dakotah with the sizes, but also with his riding style. You know, I don't need to do that anymore, so it's all about fun, and it feels great, so yeah. Jump into the comments, let me know what you think about how they look. Do you think you might try higher bars? Is it going to be a trend? As soon as Dakotah Norton wins a World Cup, do you think more people will do it? I think they probably will, because we're fickle characters. And if he proves it can work, then I think everyone else will jump on the same bandwagon as well.